Know thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, thou shalt hear the word of my mouth, and warn them from me.
Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Middle Tennessee and examining current events from a biblical perspective, this is Bible News Radio with your hosts, Randall and Stacy Harp.
All right, hey everybody. I want to welcome you to today's episode of Bible News Radio. As you know, I am very skilled at these openings. Today, I hit it out of the park. There we go. Anyway, hey everybody. We want to welcome you to the show. If you are new to the show, you're so lucky to come in on this episode in particular because we have a very special guest who is going to talk to us today about Israel. He's going to talk to us about his books. He's going to talk to us about what's going on in Israel. We're going to talk about that horrible thing that just took place where all the Jews were shot and murdered. Yeah. And did that have anything to do with prophecy? That's the question. And it's a serious topic. Anti-Semitism is rising in America. And I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but it is. And it's not just people who are not, it's not just people who are, outside of the church. Anti-Semitism is creeping in the church, which is completely insane in my opinion. Just saying. It's completely insane. And especially since I know I'm a little bit Jewish, just so you know, it really ticks me off even more so. But there are spiritual implications for this, right? And honestly, if you know God's word a little bit and you understand the role of Israel just a little teeny weeny bit, then you will kind of understand why the devil hates Jewish people. Yeah. So today you're going to be educated, or as Randall sometimes say, edumacated. Actually, that's what my dad, who's 90 years old, says. My dad today, I saw him earlier. He asked me how I was doing. I said I was doing well. And he says, "You're not pugnacious today?" And I said, "Dad, when am I ever pugnacious?" And he goes, "You're never pugnacious." And I said, "Dad, do you know what the word pugnacious means?" And he's like, "Yep, you're not pugnacious." And I said, "Dad, I think you just like to use the word pugnacious, don't you?" Yeah. He said, "Yeah." I said, "You know what word I like to use, Dad?" He's like, "What?" I said, "Nefarious." He's like, "What?" I said, "Nefarious." He's like, he really looked at me that way too. He's like, "I've never heard that word." He's like, "What does that word mean?" I said, "It means evil, wicked." Yeah. So there you go. That's Dad trivia of the day. Anyway, also, I have to let you know, we went to the assisted living to see Dad, and a lot of you guys actually messaged me and asked me how he's doing. I just want to let you know he's doing good for 90 years old. He's still kicking. He still has dementia, still has Parkinson's, and he still has a wicked sense of humor. He's hilarious. He really is. So today I went and I helped a lady who comes in every Tuesday. She likes to teach the ladies how to cook. Right. Anyway, so today she decided, and I love her, and I decided to help her, and I have to admit, but asked me if there was some, really, why would you want to cook peanut brittle for people with dentures? I don't know, but what was interesting is, did you know that you could burn peanut butter brittle in the microwave? Did ya? You probably didn't do that. Anyway, she did just a little bit. So anyway, it was fun though. In other news, wait, let me just say this other thing. If you decide to cook all natural peanut brittle on your own, make sure that before you eat it, it cools off. Not because it's hot and it's too hot to eat, but because you have to let it cool off so it actually tastes good. Just so you know. There you go. That was your free cooking tip here on Bible News Radio. That's about as home economics as it gets, people. All right, so today my guest is Doug Hershey. He's been on our show before. He is an Amazon bestseller of that brand new book called Israel Rising. It's a huge book. It's like super big. You can put it on your coffee table or somewhere else if you want. But it's a beautiful book. It shows the prophecies that basically come to life in Israel with the land, which is super cool. Anyway, Doug also wrote another book. This is it right here. It's titled The Christian's Biblical Guide to Understanding Israel, Insight into God's Heart for His People. And this is a smaller little book here. And we're going to be talking a little bit about it in case you haven't seen this before. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't get, like, you know. Can you guys see that okay? There we go. There's no glare. Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's a little bit. Anyway, this is a book. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And let me just tell you, Doug is the founder of Ezra Ministries. He's going to tell you a little bit about that. And he's a super cool guy. I got to meet him at the Prophecy Watchers Conference a couple weeks ago in Norman, Oklahoma. So we actually met in person, and he was super bored. So I had him on today to fulfill his dream of coming back on our show. So without further ado, Mr. Doug Hershey is on the show again. Hi, Doug.
Here I am, being saved from boredom day after day.
I'm sorry. Hey, I couldn't resist. I had to say that because, you know, you've been so busy. Why don't you tell everybody what you've been doing?
Oh, man. I flew from Israel to the Prophecy Conference where I ran into you. And then was there, and then I was in Atlanta for a little, and then in Pennsylvania at my mom's. And then I was in Texas for an Israel Rising book tour, which took me to Houston, Amarillo, and San Antonio. And then somehow got invited to this Night to Honor Israel with John Hagee and hanging out with him and some rabbis and some weird, crazy stuff going on. But I'm back in Pennsylvania and I'm on your show and it's awesome.
So you're tired because you were just in Texas like a couple of days ago.
Yesterday.
Yes. Yeah, yesterday. Okay, so how did it go with the John Hagee thing? I want to know. Can you tell us? Is it a secret?
Yeah, well, it went great. I mean, it was sort of a divine accidental appointment apparently that I didn't plan for, but I dropped some books off at a local synagogue that a friend had suggested. That actually at the Rabbi Scheinberg is the rabbi that helped John Hagee, was involved with Kufi from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So I dropped some books off for him and his son, and his secretary said, "Hey, I'm actually about to head over to Cornerstone to meet so-and-so." And so I actually had a book for that person. And it turned out to be John Hagee's personal assistant. And she said, well, I've got some passes. Why don't you come join us for this VIP thing? And then there's this private kosher reception afterwards. Everybody will be that. So I was like talking to Texas, the state senators, and met John and Diana Hagee and a bunch of other people. And so I'll be heading back to San Antonio. I'll be doing some lecturing at a university there. I think I'm going to be speaking at the synagogue. And so just a bunch of crazy stuff opened up that here I thought I was just going to drop off a book to say, hey, I think this is I think what you're doing is great. Here's a book. And so off it went.
Yes.
So
very
it was good. Well, it was a great night.
Some other famous guy named Dennis Prager was there too, right?
Dennis Prager is, it's one of my man crushes, Dennis Prager. I mean, he is so smart and so brilliant. I say, like, if I could be half as smart as Dennis Prager, I would be way ahead of where I'm at right now. The guy is brilliant. And he spoke for, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes or so with no notes, just talked from the podium. And, I've tracked with his show, and he does like these little fireside chats where he's smoking a cigar and the whole thing, occasionally on Facebook Live, and he answers questions. And he's very Jewish. He's got this dry sense of humor, and he's just, he's a really, I've enjoyed, getting to hang around him.
Yeah. Was your palm sweaty when you shook his hand?
Well, actually, at the reception, he wasn't there because he flew back. He flew back, but I was ready with like drool and to say, please sign my arm or something.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great evening. He was brilliant as always, and so it was a great night.
That is so cool. Well, and it really goes to, and there is always a biblical lesson, people. God directs our steps, just so you know. I mean, you never really know who knows who. You know what I mean? You just never know who people know. It used to be, what was it, like 6 degrees of separation, but now with the internet, something like 3, Really? I mean, it is.
That's pretty cold.
Yeah. I mean,
Only
it's,
3 degrees.
yeah, I know, but it's crazy. So Erin, who's in
Right.
our chat room, she actually said that she's been to John Hagee's church. She lives in Texas, so that's
Oh,
cool.
right on.
Hey, Liz and Melanie, nice to see you guys in there too. And let's see, I said hi to Erin. Okay, and whoever else is watching, hey, if you're over on YouTube, hi over there. We are thinking about changing some stuff up here. We might, you never know. Sorry, that was for dramatic effect. Can't see that on the podcast. All right. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah. Last night I was talking to Erin and she gave me a compliment. Yeah, she did. Erin, what was the compliment you gave me? I forgot it. Wait, it's something about being quirky. I forgot what it was, but
Wonderfully awkward.
wonderfully awkward. See, there you go, right there. It's that weirdness, Doug. That's why people stay tuned. Yep, I'm waving
That's it.
back. Yep, there you go. Okay, so people know about Israel Rising, the book. Do you have a copy of it by any chance? Because my dad has mine.
Um,
Just,
No.
no, you don't?
I do not. I do not. They're hard. It's a hard book to keep around. I have them and they fly out the door. And that's not a ridiculous, goofy sales pitch. That's actually true. It's hard to keep some nearby.
I have the calendar.
Oh, you got the calendar. That's good.
I have the calendar that you sent me after your last time on here. Okay,
Yeah, right
so,
on.
oh yeah, here's the book cover. Well, this is kind of the book cover, actually, right? It's kind of the book
Oh,
cover.
hold on. I think I have one.
What? Okay. See, now you're. Hark, who goes there?
All right, so I will show you an exclusive
Okay.
that has never yet been seen before on the internet.
Okay.
There's only a few of them ever made. It is not the book, but it's a paperback.
Oh, that's cool.
So they sent me, but this is Israel Rising. But when the publisher sent me some stuff, actually there's some different things that are in there. Actually, all the same pictures, just a little bit of the layout is a little bit different. But the publisher actually printed, 10 or 20 paperback versions, and they sent me one just so I could get a feel for like the size or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And I think after 12 or a year and a half, 12 to 18 months, it'll actually. I think they're talking about going to paperback. I've actually had people request it.
Yeah.
But that was a pre-release, never seen before, Bible News Radio exclusive.
All right. Well, Liz said I got the book and liked it so much I gave it as a gift to someone.
That is something that's great. Thank you, Liz. That's something I actually hear quite a bit. People will get a book and then come back and order 2 or 3 more. And with the holidays coming up, Christmas, Hanukkah, Groundhog's Day a little bit later,
Thanksgiving.
whatever it is, Thanksgiving,
Halloween.
right?
Tomorrow.
Halloween, we could rush one. You could put them in all the little baskets that come around when they knock at the door.
That would be good.
But people have told me like they're going to order like a case of them, like 10 books come in a case, and they're going to use them for Christmas or Hanukkah presents. So
Yeah.
I'm really kind of flattered by that.
I think it's great. I mean, I really do, because it's a book that's it's Judeo-Christian.
It is. It goes into both circles really, and I've had a lot of people tell me that very thing, is that they like it because it's written sort of as an aspiritual perspective. So and that was very intentional. I didn't want it to be too Christian. I didn't want it to be completely Jewish. I wanted it to be historical, but having some Bible prophecy clearly all connected in there. And then, hey, look at these photos, and you draw to your own conclusions what you think that means and how that's coming together. And so having an Orthodox rabbi write a foreword at the beginning of the book has really been a big help as well. So that's to help sort of cross some of those lines. So I've been hearing all sorts of things from all over. So it's been great.
Yeah, super cool. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
I really mean that. I think it's awesome. But now also, because you have that book, your first book is getting a little bit more traction, right? The Christian's Biblical Guide to Understanding Israel.
It is, and what was funny is that I kind of forgot about it in the midst of the Israel Rising rush on Amazon. Amazon has been every so often, like there'll be a rush on the book, and so like last week again it was at a #1 spot, in Amazon, where it hadn't been for weeks. But when the book first came out, and I was doing like the 700 Club and Jonathan Burness and a lot of these big TV shows. I happened to look at my other book, that one that you have there, and it had made it up to like second in the Messianic Jewish category. And it was selling very well through my previous publisher, and I had actually no idea that was going on. So I started to pay attention a little bit more. But yes, that one has been going as well. So it's about 10 years old, I think, 10 years old, and been out for a while, but people are rediscovering it, which is great.
Well, I think it's awesome. Wait, let me see. Is there here? Where does it say? Copyright 2011.
It was originally, that was actually when Charisma Media picked it up. I had Creation House, which I think is no longer in existence. But Charisma Media had picked it up. It had been self-published by a small little publisher, self-published in St. Louis in 2008 with a different cover. And then Charisma Media picked it up and made it look really pretty.
Yeah, okay, so we want people to get this. See, you guys, Doug was so gracious to give me some of these to give to you, but you got to buy them because, we have expenses, people. But we sell them at a less expensive cost than if you go buy it somewhere else, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and what it is, it's a quick reference guide of sorts. It's about 100 pages long. People tell me they read it in a day or two and then go back and use it as a Bible study, or churches oftentimes will buy in a box of them. I think there's like 50 of them in a box. Churches will buy a box of them and use them for for a Bible study group or a home group, because each chapter is sort of self-contained. So if you have a question about like Jesus and the law and how that fits together, you can turn to chapter 4 or 5, whatever it is, read that chapter in about 10 minutes, get a pretty good understanding with some other study points to it, and you don't have to read the rest of the book. It's sort of a topical guide of sorts. And then in the back, there is a prayer guide based on Isaiah 62 to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Because, it's the only city in the Bible that says that we're to pray for the peace of, but not only do we a lot of times just don't do it, we just don't know why, or there's no understanding of why. So that kind of takes you through Isaiah 62, and it points back to different chapters of the book for help of understanding. And then there's also a little section in there that dates the book a little bit, but there's a section in there about things that Israel has done in its first 60 years of existence that no other nation has done in like hundreds or thousands of years. And so there's pages and pages of unique facts that Israel's done in the first 60 years. Which that in itself is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that for me, that's the big selling point. That would be a total selling point right there.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, and some of them are, since 10 years ago. I mean, we're at the 70th anniversary, and I was writing that from the perspective of 10 years ago and 60th anniversary. I mean, there's been plenty more advancements to add to it, and so I've actually been considering doing a second edition of that book and adding a couple chapters and updating some of those numbers and facts and figures and of things that Israel's done in its first 70 or 75 years that no other nation has done, and just updating the info.
Well, here's the thing. Now would be the time to do it when you're hot. You know what I mean? Seriously. Hit them when they're hot.
Yeah,
and
right.
I will say to everybody, if you guys want to get this book right now, okay, I'm going to just do this for this show only. I only have a couple of these books left, the Fearless Prayer one. I've been selling this one for $15 alone, but if you want to get both of these, I can sell them both to you for $15, okay? Both of these books.
What a deal!
Yeah, it is a deal, but if for some reason I run out of the Fearless Prayer book, I have plenty of these. I'll just sell this one to you for $9. How's that? Because that's $1 under what you can get it on Amazon. And I'll include that. I'll include free shipping. How's that? Okay. So it's actually cheaper for you because I'll pay for the shipping too. Okay, so $9 for this one alone. That's free shipping, and $15 for both of these. Okay, you can just go to our website, click through to buy this one, and if you don't want this one, just say this one, or request 2 or 3 of them, and I'll send those to you. How's that? There you go, right there.
Good plan.
Yeah, no, seriously, I love it because there are so many people that in the church don't understand. They don't understand Israel. They have no clue because because the church actually doesn't teach about Israel very often. At least none of the churches I've ever been to do. And so that's the question. Yeah, okay, so Sylvia says she wants both of them. Yeah, okay, well, there you go. You know where to go.
Way to go, Sylvia.
Yeah, BibleNewsRadio.com. You know where to go. All right, she's a monthly donor too, and a couple of you have already sent these too, so I thank you for that. But yeah, let's talk a little bit. Okay, we had this really sad event just take place with the anti-Semitism over there. That just took place, and the murder of these Jewish people.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, in Pittsburgh. Sorry. I'm so up on the news. I'm on the peanut brittle news right now. That's still on my mind a little bit. But yeah, in Pittsburgh. And, before the show, we were talking a little bit about, I asked you if you'd share your take on it because you're more of an expert on that than I am. So tell us what your thoughts are on that, because I posted on my Facebook a couple of days ago that this type of thing is still going to continue to take place until the Prince of Peace shows back up, right? And as you know, anti-Semitism is huge, and it's increasing in America. And if this doesn't prove it, I don't know what does.
Yeah, and anti-Semitism in general, as far as just being outright, against the Jews, is something that's rising. Really, last year it rose 60% from the year before, and that is one of the largest jumps ever recorded by the Anti-Defamation League, who's been keeping track of this really since, I think, the early 70s. And so on top of that, it's touched every single state. So there's not a state in the country that has not had some type, at least one reported incident. So there's almost 2,000 nationwide, which is like 2 or 3 a day. That's crazy of reported incidences against the Jewish community. And so what's scary about that for the United States is this has been happening in Europe for quite a while. Within the past year or two, the anti-Semitism levels in Europe have exceeded what they were in World War II. So places like France, Germany, parts of Poland, Belgium, Sweden. I mean, these nations, barely 70 years ago, a little more than 70 years ago, were home to Holocaust camps. I mean, you can still go to Auschwitz, you can go to some of these places, and the same type of hatred is rising up. Now it's starting in the United States in a very unprecedented way, which is concerning.
Yeah, it's more than concerning. But the other thing too, though, theologically, it's in the church too.
It is, and some of that is it's becoming a little more ugly. It starts really kind of as a replacement theology kind of thing, where this understanding that, or this teaching, false teaching, I should say, that the church has replaced Israel, and because they killed Jesus, that God has changed some things around, and there's a new covenant. Because of our Western minds, we like to think about how that if something is old, we don't want it, that's no good anymore, and it's if something's new, that's the latest and the greatest and the best. But this idea that God has replaced Israel with the church, not only is it wrong and does it contradict the character of God, it's just opposite of things of what the Bible teaches. If you go to Jeremiah 1, verse 1 to 37, it's the first time in the Bible this idea of a new covenant is talked about. And the first time the word new covenant is used, Jeremiah 31:31, it's easy to remember. But as soon as he's done explaining what the new covenant is, he then goes on and says, if the waves stop, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but if the waves stop rolling in, if you can search out the heavens or search out the depths of the seas, then I will reject Israel for all that they have done, or then I will cause Israel to stop being a people before me. And so it's really kind of ironic that Jeremiah is talking about the new covenant, and then in the very next thought, or the very next paragraph, he's immediately saying, oh, by the way, God will never, ever, ever break his covenant with Israel, even if they sin, even if he will never throw them off, even if it's based on what they've done. He will not do it. So if you can search out the heavens, if you can measure out the depths of the sea, which if you know a little bit, they're still struggling to do both, then God's faithfulness is still in place regardless of Israel's actions, just simply because he's made a covenant and he's made a promise and he's keeping it to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. And you know what's really sad to me is that because, well, how do I say this? I want to be tactful. Highly unusual. Sorry. Well, let me just say this. Some of the most argumentative Christians I know are in the Reform camp. I mean, they hate
Yes.
you if you mention Israel. I mean, I've literally had friends like not friend me anymore because of my position on Israel, which is completely insane to me. But it just, I don't know if it's because of okay, so you mentioned Jeremiah 31:31. How does that camp get around that verse? How do they explain that away?
They don't. They ignore it and they don't bring it up because it's pretty obvious of what it says. And so,
Yeah.
when you have things where are that blatantly clear, you ignore it.
Yeah.
I mean, what else? What else can you say? I mean, and that's one of the things I talk about even with when I'm doing these interviews with Israel Rising, and depending on the outlet, if I've been doing some Jewish or even secular news sources. I did some for Newsmax TV a few months back,
Cool.
and just some of the conversation with that is like, well, let's just put the Bible aside. There's no other people group that have been on a piece of land for a little while, been thrown off for 70 years to come back to the same piece of land, to then again be scattered for 2,000 years throughout the earth, to come back as the same identifiable, recognizable people group that's speaking the same language, studying the same scriptures, holding to the same traditions. It's like, if you just put the Bible aside, there are some profound anomalies about the Jewish people. And if anything has shown us about God's faithfulness and God keeping his promises in the last 50 to 70 years, is that God is actually keeping his promise and he's doing exactly what he said, which was really the whole point of Israel Rising, is that, okay, you want to argue about God keeping his faithfulness? Well, he says that when the Jewish people return to the land will put forth branches and produce fruit. Okay, that's happened.
Yep.
The land will be cultivated and sown. That's happening as well. The wasted, forgotten cities will be rebuilt. I can show you photos of them. And the people and man and beast will be multiplied on it. And he says that, which is also happening. If you've been to Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, I mean, it's crazy, with the amount of people that are there now. But the reason that they're there is because they're coming back from the four corners of the earth. And it's something that God said he would do thousands of years ago. And so there's no other people group that has any type of ancient writing like that. Not the Chinese or the Persians or the Greeks or the Romans. Nobody has anything close to that. And so if you're putting the Bible aside and saying, well, God's really done with Israel, then you have a whole bunch of other historical things that you have to just simply call coincidences or random occurrences that all fit together. Because if it's not divine, if it's not God inspired, to have these ridiculous anomalies in human history all surround one particular people group and one particular piece of land, then you've got lots of holes in your bucket. I mean, there's nothing you can do with that. It's just way easier to say, you know what, I read the Bible. The Bible said this was going to happen. It is happening. And it's happening because God said that it would. And I'm a Christian and I believe him and I believe the Bible, and I don't understand it all, but I see that it's happening, and I'm going to start believing what he says and stop arguing with him.
Okay, now I have a question for you, and I don't think I've asked you this because I agree with you that you should, just read the Bible and believe it. Simple.
Yes.
But you're a Messianic Jewish believer, right?
I am.
Okay, how did you come to see Jesus, Yeshua, as your Messiah?
Well, I actually did it backwards. I was raised in a Christian home without really any Jewish influence, but I had this Jewish thing in me for a very long time. And so I again was born and raised in the church, and never really heard Israel, Christian, anything put together, but I always had this desire. So I remember reading 13, 14 years old, reading the scriptures and being fascinated by the kings, about God bringing the people into the land, even the prophets. I enjoyed reading the prophets. And so even graduating, by the time I graduated from a Christian high school, I felt like I had a better understanding of God's heart in the Torah and how he dealt with Israel and why the prophets came, and understanding the message of the prophets and trying to bring the warnings. I felt like I had a better understanding of those things than I did of Paul's letters and who's he talking to, and what's exactly he's saying, and I'm not sure if I'm tracking it all.
Yeah,
And
you
so
are.
I always kind of joked, was like, if I found out somewhere along the line that I was Jewish, it would, at least the light bulb would turn on. It would make a lot of sense of why I feel the way that I do. And especially when I go to the land. I mean, when I'm in Israel, it's just, it's, I don't know how to describe it. I guess you have to experience it. But for me, at least, I remember when I'm out of the land, I remember that I feel differently in the land. I feel more alive. I feel more like myself, like I belong.
Hmm.
But I always forget what that feels like until I'm actually in the land. So when I'm out of the land, I remember I feel that way, but I don't remember what it actually feels like until I'm in a car driving away from the airport in Tel Aviv, and I'm, kind of take a deep breath and go, this. Everybody says it's home, but for me, it's a little deeper. And so,
Yeah.
so,
Wait.
so go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean that's I mean it's interesting. I'm just trying to kind of comparing it to my upbringing, because my mom and dad baptized me in the Catholic Church when I was really little, and then they got divorced and thrown out of the Catholic Church when I was like 7, and then I didn't have any religion at all until somebody shared the gospel with me in high school, and then I became a Christian there. But then it wasn't until I was about, I'd say probably 20. Well, I was married to Randall. So I was at least probably about 24, maybe 25 at the time. I was reading Psalm 122. And I had just met Marianne Fruchtenbaum, because her and I went to a group together. And anyway, long story short, one day I asked her, I had no idea who she was, okay, just so you know. She was just another woman in the support group we were in. And anyway, long story short, I said to her one day, I said, it's really been bugging me, this Psalm 122, as I'm reading it. It says here, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I said, I don't get it. I don't understand what that means. By that point, I had been a Christian only a couple of years, probably 5 or 6 years. And she said to me, oh, well, come over to my house. I want to tell you who I am. I was like, what are you talking about? And so I went to her house, and that day she shared with me what Psalm 122 represented and all that. And she introduced me to Arnold and his Life of the Messiah from Messianic Jewish Perspective teaching. And he was in town, which was very rare. It's still very rare. And Randall and I went to that, and all of a sudden I got it. I understood. I was like, oh my gosh, this is completely crazy how much I get this. I mean, it literally changed my life. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I mean, I was on fire already, but then when I found out this stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, how can somebody not believe this, right?
Yeah.
And all these years later, I met Marianne when I was 24, and now I'm 50. And it was just last year I learned that I have Jewish blood. And it's just, and everybody's like, oh, are you Jewish? I'm like, yeah, even though it's a little percentage, people, it's still important. But, and that actually is another question I have for you, because I've had this draw to Israel. I went there, but honestly, I didn't have that, oh my gosh, I'm in Israel, like this is like my home. I didn't have that experience. And I think the reason I didn't have that experience wasn't because it's not in me, but because I have such high travel anxiety that I was so anxious being there and going. I was nervous about everything I was doing because I was completely out of my element. But I thought it was cool. I think if I could go there for longer than a week, it would be easier on my body. I'd be like, oh, I'm relaxed now, and all that. So, and speaking of that, tell us about Ezra Adventures. How'd you name your business, and what do people do with that?
Ezra Adventures, actually, as I'll tell you the embarrassing story that's behind the scenes I'd mentioned before we were on the air.
Right.
But prior to, in fact, if people get the book, get the book that you're holding up.
Yeah, it's right
there.
Here.
It is. It mentions about the Ebed network, and Ebed in Hebrew means servant. And so when it talks about Moses, the servant of the Lord, or being a bond servant of the Lord, the Hebrew word is Ebed. And so I had called it the Ebed Network. It was at that time it was a nonprofit organization with the intention of bringing people to get involved with different projects and such. But for a long story short, I wanted to drop the nonprofit status and wanted to just really go for-profit status. It was really just something that I felt like the Lord was putting on my heart. And as soon as I did that, things really changed. Now, one of the things that changed was the name. And the name changed because I had some Israeli friends very kindly pulled me aside and they said, listen, if you are keeping the name Ebed, you need to know that in biblical Hebrew, it's understood that it's servant. In modern Hebrew, Ebed means slave. So you're going to have a slave network that'll be running all over Israel. And I said, I see your point. So, and I was changing lots of other things anyhow. So it turned into, I just kind of reformed some things, put some ideas. I put a little bit more of myself. I'm sort of an adventurous kind of thrill-seeking kind of guy as well. And Israel is really exciting as far as just sort of adventure junkie kind of things that you can do. And so we specialize in small group travel as Ezra Adventures. Ezra in Hebrew, Ezra, means help. And so we're still this idea that we're bringing groups to help and get involved in different projects. And then adventures can mean anything. I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes, an adventure for some people is just, getting on an airplane and, having a falafel in Jerusalem. And other people say, well, they want to hang out with camels and go skydiving and snow skiing on Mount Hermon and all that sort of stuff. So you can do 101 things. If you want to go paintballing and snowshoeing and snow skiing on the mountains in January and then go float in the Dead Sea and snorkel in the Red Sea, I mean, we can do that all in one trip. And so there's a ton of stuff.
Wow.
On the adventure aspect. And like in Caesarea, not a lot of people know, but in Caesarea Maritime, it's one of the it's a really famous. It's one of the largest archaeological sites in Israel, and what a lot of people don't know is a lot of the ruins are actually underwater, and so there's actually a dive shop there that you can get snorkel stuff and dive gear, and I've taken groups to go snorkeling through Roman ruins, which is super cool. Who knew you can do that? And that's right where like all of these tons and tons of bus trips go, and people don't realize exactly like what's hidden under the water and what you can go see. And so there's just really unique things like that. So we specialize in taking small groups from 6 to about 10, maybe 12 at the most, because there's places I can get 10 people into that I can't get 16 or 20 people into. And so that opens up the country in a whole new way. We spend a time in Judea and Samaria, which is where 80% of the Bible happens. The news would call it the West Bank. And so we do, there's 3 aspects to Ezra Adventures: the service projects and how we tie that in to get people involved, adventure day trips, and then unique biblical sites. And so it's completely customizable. It is personalized to the people that are on the trip. And so once you contact us and let us know what you want to do and where you want to go, we help through that process, and then we build something specific to you and your group of what you want to do in the land. Because there's so much to do in the land. I could take the same group 4 or 5 times to be brand new every time.
Wouldn't it be neat to have a Bible News Radio thing to Israel? That would be so cool.
Let's do it.
That'd be very exciting.
See if some of your listeners want to come. It'll be like this exclusive little trip, and we can you could be reporting while you're like sliding on a sled down snow-capped mountains or something.
That would be fun. You know what I've actually always wanted to do? Not really. I've always thought it might be fun. Is to do snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef area, which I know it's not too far from Israel, but it's farther. It's by Australia.
It's not too far. Wow.
Well,
just several thousand kilometers.
In comparison to
Have you
America.
looked at a map lately?
Yeah, in comparison to America, but geography isn't my strong suit. I've shared this before, Doug. One of the things you don't watch my show every day, but I will say, when I was in college earning my associate's degree, I got a D in geography. It killed my GPA. It was the worst class ever. I actually enjoyed the class. I just sucked at it. I don't know what it is about geography, but just saying.
Okay.
Yeah. But
well, you just demonstrated that fact to all your loyal listeners.
I should do a Stacey Harp trivia quiz for a prize someday, because I'm sure Melanie would win it, or somebody else who watches every day. Oh yeah, she sucks at that. Wait, let's take notes. How did you get into doing something like that? I mean, you live in America, right? Primarily.
Primarily, yeah. And so, really, again, kind of by accident. My life is an accident lately, apparently. But much of how I was saying, I found myself by accident in this in this John Hagee Kufi event that was down in Texas, which was amazing. But I have a lot of friends in Israel, and I was starting to go back a little bit more back and forth to get involved whenever I was able to. And so I had people say, hey, the next time you go, can I tag along? Can I carry your bags? I would love to go. And I say, sure. And then some Israeli friends pulled me aside and were like, hey, listen, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing this as a full-time job. You could be monetizing this. And so I was, let's see, 4 years ago, I did 4 trips to see if it would be profitable. By trip 2 or 3, I realized that it was. And by the end of that year, I prayed what I thought was impossible. I did 4 trips that year, and I said, God, I want to double that next year. I want to do 8. And by the end of the following year, I'd actually led 9. Wow. And so things just really kind of began to grow. And now, and then when I put out, really, it was the time in the land was what had really stirred my heart to begin looking at the history and these old photos, and that's sort of where Israel Rising came out of. And a couple years ago, I expected Israel Rising to be an advertisement of sorts for Ezra Adventures. I thought maybe there'd be a few people that might think it'd be kind of cool, but I would primarily focus on Ezra Adventures and taking groups and that kind of thing. But now it's really the other way around. I've been slammed with the book stuff, which I'm really grateful for, and the more I talk about the book and about Israel, then that puts more people in the pipeline for Ezra Adventures, and so I'm just doing my best to keep my head above water.
I love it.
Here I am a fantastic business planner. Like, yep, I hope it works.
Well, people ask how. It's kind of the same thing with Bible News Radio. I was in grad school trying to get I did get a master's degree in clinical psychology so I could be a head shrinker.
Nice.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I had somebody come and say, do you want to come to NRB, hang out at the Chronicle of Narnia booth with me, and I'll share some stuff with you, and you can meet so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And then they offered to pay me to advertise a book about Ronald Reagan, or DVD, on my website, on my blog, on Google, my Gmail blog, my really cheap little blog, where I was ranting and raving about politics. And then next thing you know, I'm like, oh, I'll just start this company. But my thing, Doug, was I threw out a fleece. I know that's so biblical, kind of is, but lack of faith here.
Hey, it works. Whatever it takes, man.
Hey, I asked this one. I said, Lord, okay, so you wanted 8, 8 people.
Yeah.
I asked to
interview 8 trips, not 8 people.
Yeah, 8 trips. Okay, so I asked to interview Amy Grant. Now, I lived in California. I don't know anybody in Tennessee, let alone anybody in media at that point in 2005. Right. Anyway, I got it. I got the interview with her. So.
Wow.
So all these.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, all these years later, here I am. And
I'm learning more all the time.
Isn't it great? You just don't know. I could tell you that Always Feminine Pad coupon story too, but I'll save that for later. All right. First thing though, I gotta let everybody know we gotta remind everybody about Ariel Ministries. Ariel's my main sponsor, you guys. Ariel, ARIEL.org. Go there. You can save 20% when you use the coupon code Bible News. By the way, Doug, you could use this coupon code too if you ever want to buy anything from Arnold's Ministry.
Great.
Right now, over at our website, you can get the free Bible study on the local church. Just download that. I think it's 43 pages or something that Arnold wrote about it. And also they have don't tell Doug this, but they have the DVD about the Israel tour. You can... The series, there's a 4, is it 7 DVDs, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, 7 DVDs, mastered and everything, a tour of Israel for only $29. But you can save 20% on that $29.
Wow, that's a good deal.
It's a huge deal, and it's probably, if you can't ever afford to go to Israel, because it's not cheap, just so you know, get the DVD set. You'll like it a lot.
Right on.
And then there's some other stuff there too. We have some stuff from Model Balston, who is a really great Messianic teacher, on there. And the Life of the Messiah from a Messianic Jewish perspective, abridged version book, which you don't have to sit through 50 cassette tapes like me and Randall did. You can actually read the book. And there's stuff there, the Come and See series that those are really good. Those are actually Arnold's online thing. online Bible. They were actually his radio shows they put in book form, so those are really good. By the way, you can actually listen to a whole bunch of his stuff over at Ariel.org too, but only if you can understand Arnold's voice, because he has a very unique voice. Have you heard his voice?
No, I don't think I have.
Randall, do Arnold's voice. He does it perfect.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought I might put myself on screen, so it's
You
not.
can go ahead. It's fine.
But then again, that might detract from the sort of authenticity. It's just like, anyway. But he has a very unique voice. He talks about the side of Jonah, the side of resurrection. An accent that has been acquired from his youth in Siberia, and then living in New York, and then living in Texas and other places, including Israel. It's a very unique sort of accent that he has.
Doug got up and left.
I don't blame him.
Anyway, wait, he's back. Okay, so anyway,
What?
anyway, yeah, don't forget Ariel. Okay. Oh, and if you came in late, Fearless Prayer and the Biblical Guide to Understanding Israel is Doug's first book. $15 for both these, but if I run out of this one, because I'm almost out actually, then you guys can just get this one for, what did I say, $9, I think?
Yes.
Yeah, something like that, to support our show. And hello, everybody. Hey, Paul and John. How are you doing? John's laughing. And Sylvia and Marty, everybody's there. Okay, anyway, so the other thing, too, is don't forget Pillars of the Community. If you want to become a monthly donor, just go ahead and set that up over at our website. I'll send you lots of virtual hugs and kisses as a result. And also, Legal Shield. I almost forgot. I want to thank everybody this month who signed up. You guys rock. Last night, we closed it. We did it. So thank you guys for doing that. Because I actually didn't think it was going to happen. I have so little faith. I'm such a weakling in the faith, just so you know. But hey, you guys got me my bonus. So thank you for doing that. And I'm still entered, hopefully, for that Cabo San Lucas trip. Doug signed up. I hope you don't mind, but Doug, he helped.
It was a big secret. Now it's out.
I know. Yeah, he helped out. He signed up. But so thank you. Now we got to do it again next month in November. So if you
Cabo.
Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna do this. It's gonna be hard, but it'll be worth it. So if you guys haven't signed up yet for Legal Shield, then get in touch with me. I can tell you about it, and I'll try not to go on forever like I did with Doug when I talked to him.
Non-stop, day after day after. No, I'm kidding. No, it wasn't like that at all.
Or Identity Shield, which is also, if you don't want Legal Shield, you can get ID Shield. Actually, you should get ID Shield no matter what. I know some of you might have your own lawyers and different things, but it's a great service. Just get in touch with me about it. I will get you in my Facebook group and all that. So, all right. Okay, so we're wrapping it. We got about 9 minutes left. Anybody have any questions for Doug? I mean, he's been here like the whole time. It looks like, I'm trying to read this. Let's see here. Gilly Ribner says, Jesus is bigger. He burns in Israel. Has Wes a Jew? First Buford something. I'm not sure.
All right.
Okay. Somebody said our kids will be smart and beautiful. Jaguar. I don't know. Are you thinking me and you will have kids? Aw, that's so sweet. I have no uterus, so that's not possible.
Wow.
And my husband would really have an issue with me being with you. Just so you know, I would take issue with that. Let's see. Any other questions? Wait, hold on. Sounds like a great company. Are you referring to Ezra Adventures or Legal Shield? I don't know. Now somebody's putting weird well, I can't say Hebrew is weird, but there's nothing there. Does anybody on Facebook have any questions? Bareface, you have any questions? Do you have any comments, Doug? Are you part of the Hershey family? I think I already asked you this once, but somebody probably wants to know.
Say that again.
Are you part of the Hershey family, the chocolate people?
I most definitely, absolutely am. However,
You've been
and this is
disinherited, really?
I've been banned from. No, I grew up on a farm in central Pennsylvania with a name like Hershey. The answer is yes, distantly related. But Milton Hershey, the guy that started the whole chocolate factory, chocolate world, it's actually really a fascinating story. But
Huh.
I'll tell you, I can even tell you in a second. Just as far as like having faith and having the direction of what he was doing and where he was going, um, yes, distantly related, but no inheritance and no free chocolate. So
Well, that's a bummer.
what's a guy to do?
So Hershey's a Jewish name?
It actually is. In
I
fact,
had no
if you,
idea. That's
yeah, if you Google it, Milton Hershey chocolate stuff will come up as one of the most successful Jewish businessmen of the 20th century.
I had
How
not.
about that?
All right, now how many of you knew that, huh? How many of you knew that Hershey's company was Jewish? That guy.
Add that to your trivia night.
Ah, we shall. Maybe I should submit it to Swag IQ as a question. Jokester. Who you calling a jokester? Okay. And Paul said I need to get glasses. Paul, I actually have glasses. They're for distance, but I can't wear them. Here's why. Because now Doug met me with glasses. I was wearing my glasses when he met me, and I had to keep taking them off because they're for distance, and this is too far. I can't see that far.
When we met, I should have been standing across the room, and then everything would have been fine.
It's blurry. All right. Sylvia says she's related to Heinz. Ah, like the ketchup people? I don't know if that's spelled right. Heinz?
All right.
Okay. All right. So back to you,
Yeah.
Doug. You're my guest for a moment.
Yes.
So the Prophecy Conference. Okay, let's talk about the Prophecy Watchers Conference just for a minute, since we got like a couple minutes left.
Sure.
Now, you met me in person, which was a highlight, I'm sure. Cause,
it was the best part of my week.
Wasn't it? Spoken like a true Jewish guy with a wry sense of humor. No, anyway, what was it like to be at the Prophecy Conference, promoting your book and stuff? I mean, what was it like to be rubbing shoulders with all the other big Bible prophecy teachers and all that?
I had just gotten off a plane. I had literally flown from Tel Aviv. Actually, I had not just flew from Tel Aviv. I flew Royal Jordanian Air. I kind of rolled the dice a little bit, if I can be honest.
Yeah.
Normally, I'd never flown Jordanian Air, and I'm a sucker for a good deal. Maybe it's the Jewish side, but I get on this plane and I sit down, and anyhow, that's a different story that you don't have time for. But I flew from Amman, Jordan to Chicago in like 12 hours. It's
Wow.
a 12-hour flight, and then from Chicago down to the Prophecy Conference. And so I say all that to say is when you and I met, I was fighting jet lag and sucking coffee and doing whatever I could to keep it going. But the group was great. I mean, there was 1,400 people there. I did a couple sessions. One on Israel Rising and one on 10 biblical prophecies that have been fulfilled in our lifetime, with not just talking about theory, but we're talking about verifiable facts, some photos from the book. I even had some video of giving verifiable proof that the stuff that God had said throughout the scriptures of what he was going to do and how he was going to do it, it's unfolding right now. So a lot of it was great. I was really really honored that a lot of people would come by and say, "Oh, I've got this book. This is great. I need a couple more." And so I'd been on the Prophecy Watchers TV show for a couple shows, and so people had gotten it from there. They'd seen it elsewhere, and so again, it just seems to keep on going, and I'm just along for the ride.
Yep, that's very cool. All right, I don't think anybody has any questions. Do you guys have any questions for Doug? I'm giving you one last chance, people, before we go.
Whew, I was getting nervous.
The latest conversation has to do with other people liking computer glasses. Do you wear glasses? Actually, I should ask you a A-list guest question now that you've been on here more than once. Oh.
Well, what's the question? Do I wear glasses?
No. No. That's not an A-list guest question.
Oh, what is the question?
I'll give you a category. Okay, so driving, eggs, or magnets?
Driving eggs.
Okay. All right. That's 2 questions. All right. So do you?
Oh,
okay.
you don't driving eggs?
No.
I was wondering how you drove eggs.
The categories: driving or eggs or magnets.
Eggs. And you know why I'm choosing eggs? Because I grew up on a chicken farm with 60,000 chickens, so I am ready for your questions on eggs.
You are? Oh, this will be really good. Okay. So, you'll never have anybody else ask you this question, I guarantee you. Okay, so here it is. When you have eggs in the morning, you buy them. Do you buy them in the dozen or the flat, first of all?
Probably by the dozen.
Okay. So, when you take them out and you crack the shell and you let the little egg come out and you cook it, what do you do with the shells?
I stick them under the sink for the compost pile.
Ah, you're a composter. How
How about
hilarious.
that?
You're one of the only few people that I have actually ever people will mention it, but they never say they do it. So you're like a
Well,
composter.
I do that when I'm at my mom's because she'll yell at me otherwise. And so
Yeah, she's Jewish. She
I
can do that,
I
right?
have to do it. I have to do what my mom says.
Okay, so then the other question is, what do you do with the remainder of the eggs that are in the carton? Do you rearrange them? Do you keep them in the same spot? What do you do?
I pull out the 2 that I need. I shut them and shove them back in the fridge and close the door.
So you don't
Did
care. You don't care where they're at. You don't care.
No, I don't. I could care less. Did you know that eggs actually don't need to be refrigerated?
Yes, I did. As long as you don't wash them or clean them.
Well,
off.
and as long as you don't refrigerate them first. If you refrigerate them and then leave them out, they'll go bad. But if you just pull them, if you just put them on the shelf. So like when in Israel, eggs are never refrigerated.
Huh. I didn't know
Sometimes
that.
they are. Sometimes they are, but a lot of places they're not. But they don't need to be refrigerated.
Well, that kind of makes sense because God made them.
He did make them. That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, we know that chickens go back as far as Job anyway.
Yeah, and I think the chicken probably. Did you think God made the egg and then had a chicken hatch out of it, or do you think that the chicken came first and then?
I think the chicken came first.
Yeah, I think so. Probably.
I think so. Yeah. Well, I asked this question just because it's just a weird question to ask. But.
Well, I've got a question for you. Are you ready?
Yep.
Real briefly. What does the farmer pick up the chicken eggs in?
What does the farmer pick up the chicken eggs in?
Yeah. He picks it up in a bucket. Doesn't that sound
Okay,
like a chicken?
Yeah, if we had a hanger, we would go like this. Or a gong.
Yeah. It's the bucket. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Thank you.
All right, people, that's it. Okay, so where can
what a quality way to end your show.
okay,
Glad I could help.
So where can people get to know you? Where what's your website?
The website is EzraAdventures.com, but a better place is on Facebook is sort of the landing page. The if I can be completely honest, which I'm embarrassed to be, the Facebook kind of gets a little outdated. I just have trouble keeping up with that. And so Facebook.com with Ezra Adventures on Facebook, or even better, Israel Rising on Facebook, or Doug Hershey on Facebook. All 3 of those are all kind of tied together. So
and they are.
If you find one, you can find the rest.
Cool.
And that's often how you and I chat.
Mm-hmm. Yep. A lot.
About chickens.
That's right. The yoke is on us, eh? That's what Texas Mayor says.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There you go. Somebody had to do it. Okay, you guys.
Quality.
All right, you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it a lot. And, tomorrow's Wednesday, I think. Yeah, it is. So until tomorrow, remember, be bold, stand up, and go with God, people, because he loves you. And we'll see you later.